My name is Amanda Pogany. I'm the head of school at Luria Academy of Brooklyn. At Luria, we talk about our school as a Jewish mosaic. We see the diversity in our students and in our families coming together from so many different places in Jewish life and coming together to basically form a whole. So, we sort of moved away from a vision of a melting pot, right, where everybody comes and sort of has to be and do the same thing. But actually, we really focus on helping our students retain who they are and where they're coming from, and come together to learn with people who are both similar or not at all similar to them. And we together really form this beautiful picture. And I think that for us, it's a reality of the Jewish world, right? We live in our pockets, right? This one's too Jewish, this one's not Jewish enough, or, this one looks like this, and we live with our people who are like us, and we stay in our neighborhoods, and we go to our schools with everyone who sort of has similar values to us. And I think that the reality of the Jewish people is we all are very different from each other, and I think we share a same mission, right? We are together. We together make up the Jewish people, and I think that we're trying to introduce our students to that in a really sophisticated and respectful way, so that as they become the leaders of the Jewish people, they will know how to interact with each other in real ways. I think that how is our school Jewish other than we teach Jewish subjects and Judaics and text and holidays and these things, but we try and integrate all of those things into a larger framework of who we be with each other, right? How do we interact with each other? And we talk about how do you ask each other questions? How do you be curious instead of being afraid of difference? How does your family celebrate Shabbat? How does your family celebrate Shabbat? And how do we ask each other and wonder about each other without judging and without making the other feel uncomfortable? And I think that we actually believe that you can give a very high level, sophisticated Jewish education without having to be judgy about it, right? Without having to say, you're right, you're wrong. We spend a lot of time in the text, really gaining tools and skills to access knowledge so that students are really armed with knowledge. And we really look to families to sort of say, what does it mean to your family? And we want you to sort of teach your child what's important to you, and we want you to be a part of this conversation. Parents come to my office when they're looking at the school, and I always say, this is not a place where you get to drop your kid off and say, make them Jewish like XYZ. Right? I say you're going to be engaged in this process. Your child is going to come home asking you questions, and I love that. I love that my 5-year-old pushes me to reflect on how and why do we do things in our home the way we do them, and he forces me and my husband to think about our answers before we give them. And I think that that's actually really powerful and really incredible, and I think that our students are really learning and really gaining knowledge. And then they're processing with their parents about what are they going to do with that knowledge. And ultimately, I hope as adults, they're going to have it and they're going to hold it, and they're going to be able to be thoughtful about both who they are as individuals, but also how they build community, how they live in community, and how they create a better world for who we are and who we're trying to be.
It's beautiful, thank you. Can you tell me a little, you talked about your own reaction, but can you tell me more about families in the community and their reaction to this Jewish vision and mission?
I think that some families are in our school because they're invested in the same mission that we have, Jewishly. And I think for those families it's very exciting, and they support the conversations that their kids come home with around, this family, this friend, his home looks different than ours, and his food looks different from ours, and his kippah is different from ours. And I think there are other families for whom this is challenging. I think that we are pushing comfort zones, and I think that for some parents who may be in our school because they appreciate the progressive nature of the education and aren't necessarily as comfortable with sort of the Jewish philosophy in terms of the diversity, I think it's hard, and we work really hard with the kids to talk about language and how do you be curious. And I think that we're trying, and something we'd like to do more work on is that with the parents as well, because I think adults are harder, right? Kids are naturally curious and also just have less years of stuff that they're carrying around about all of this. And I think that so there are moments that I see are hard for parents, and we just try and be really transparent and really supportive and really honest about who we are and what we're trying to do, and that we're not trying to make anyone more or less subservient than they are. We don't have a vision for who you're going to be in your religious life. That's your vision. We want to support it from an academic place, from a cultural place, from a place of knowledge. But those decisions are decisions that, we think families need to make. And I think coming from a place of support and transparency rather than sort of threat and fear, I think is really what we're trying to get to. And I would say, as new people come in, we try and be really clear about what this looks like and want them to feel on board with it. And it's a process. It's a process.
Great. Can you tell me a little more about what your describe what your school looks like Jewishly? Meaning, if you go into your school, what programs would you see? What artifacts would you see? What would the kids be doing?
Sure. So our school is a Montessori school, and so a lot of the learning is integrated. So students have a large chunk of time called work time, where they're working on various subjects, and during that time, a group of kids might be working on math, and a group next to them might be working on Chumash, and there isn't sort of a sense of this is Jewish time and this is non-Jewish time or secular subject time. Things are very integrated, and we do that intentionally. I think that we want to create a sense of sort of the Jewish learning is right alongside with the secular learning, and often those things are integrated. When a holiday is coming up, we sort of reframe all the learning around Pesach, and the math word problems are about how many seconds your matzah needs to, can be in the oven and watching it, and we just sort of reframe the whole picture around that perspective. When we're talking about Israel, when we're getting ready for Yom Ha'atzmaut, all of the teachers and all of the the foci are really about Israel, rather than sort of saying this happens in a Jewish time. So I think integration is one of the things that's important to us. We're working very hard on Hebrew language as something that having full-time native speakers as much as possible in all the environments, really speaking Hebrew to kids, so that it feels like throughout the day you're hearing some people speaking Hebrew and some people speaking English, and that's just common, and that's just what happens as you walk through the hallways. I think that on the walls you see things in Hebrew, you see things in English, you see artwork and photographs and kids work that's sort of focused on Jewish subjects, on Israel. I think generally the feeling is just that we are a Jewish school. We're not a school who does Jewish, right? Like, it's really an integrated big picture, and sort of when we look at who our kids are and who we want them to be, we think about them as individuals, as Jewish individuals, right? It's our lens, it's where we're coming from. It's authentic and integrated, rather than sort of, parsed out of this is the Judaics teacher, this is not, this is, this person, and this is this time, and this is not this time, but rather it all works together toward the same goal.
Great. Can you talk a little more about your Israel education in terms of what the goals are and how you achieve them, things like that?
We are really not where I want to be on that. I mean,
okay.
I can try.
Okay, if you don't need to, if you don't want to, then
it's a hard moment.
It is hard. That's right as we speak. It's right.
The diversity of the community.
I understand.
Yeah, it's really. I wish I could.
Okay, fair enough.
Come back to me next year.
Okay, I will.
If that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you said you don't necessarily know what your graduates will end up doing Jewishly or things like that, but do you have a vision of what success would look like? Meaning either now or in the future, what would be success in terms of your education?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that our goal is to create knowledgeable, sophisticated Jewish leaders who understand in a profound way what it means to interact with people who are different from them. And I think the knowledgeable piece, we want them to have the breadth and the depth of a high-level Jewish education so that they are comfortable in traditional texts, that they, have high-level Hebrew language, are able to open a page of Talmud and navigate their way around as best as an 8th grader is able to do. I think for those families for whom Jewish high school is the right step, we want our kids prepared to, take that step. And for those families that Jewish high school is not in the cards, we want them to have enough of a foundation that they can continue to live a strong Jewish life, even without, a formalized education as they continue. And I think that we want to give them a lens of respect and understanding and really knowing how to talk to people, how to ask questions, how to engage from a place of from love and respect and curiosity rather than, fear and judgment. And I think that for us, that creating responsible human beings in the world, I believe will make a significant contribution to the difficult, times that we're in right now.
And if there's an area of your Jewish mission in your community, what areas do you think are most embodied by either the students or the parents or other? I mean, you've described your vision as the head of school, but what kinds of areas or domains of the community do other stakeholders have?
I mean, I think because we have stakeholders from so many different communities, it's a hard question to answer. I think that, for some of our families, we have a group of Israeli families, and for them, the connection to Israel and Hebrew language is really important, and the religious piece is less so. We have a bunch of Chabad families for whom, tradition and the knowledge and the practice piece is really important. We have families who find themselves somewhere in between all of those things, and for them, I think arming their kids with real knowledge, with an ability to sort of make responsible and personal choices along the way is something that they are focused on. We integrate students with special needs into our classrooms. I think from a diversity lens, it's important for all of our families that our students are open to having friends with all types of needs and building those relationships and learning how to, be in those relationships. And I think that's a big piece for us as well. And I think a sort of common feeling is that we all want our kids to have a really rich Jewish education in a way that engages them and inspires them rather than sort of being pushed on them, I think.
Great. Switching gears a little bit, can you tell me a little bit about your experience here at DSLTI, how it's been meaningful for you?
Yeah. I think that the most powerful thing about DSLTI has been having a cohort of peers who are, sort of going through similar challenges and experiences, and just being able to have a bunch of different chavrutot to be able to sort of say, what's the frame for this? What's my approach for this? Hearing people sort of come from the same place around the challenges and the excitement, and the big picture of what are we doing to contribute to sort of Jewish education, begadol, right, in the world. The mentoring has been amazing. I think I always like to say to my mentor, I really want to know what best practices are around this. I can't guarantee I'm going to do it, right? But I want to know what it is, and then I want to think about what's going to be the right decision for our community, but given sort of this lens. And I think having mentors to remind you that, there's another frame, or there's another way to look at it, or there's a whole field behind you that is supporting you and holding you and pushing you to be better, is really powerful. And I think that, there were certain things that were extremely tachlis and extremely helpful. And now the question of sort of how do I implement them, and where are we now, and where do I want us to be in 5 years, and, so I think that those moments I feel armed to sort of go into the next stage for me. And I think that it's patience, right? Thinking about having patience and what the process is going to look like to sort of get from where we are to get to where we hope to be. But I feel like I have the tools to do that, and now I need to sort of enlist my army to, my lay leaders and the parents and the teachers, and really get us there.
Okay. Can you give one concrete example of something that you took away, or that you are thinking about implementing, or that is particularly a meaningful moment for you?
Yeah, I think, we're a young school, and I'm the first head at the school, and I think that we have done a lot of year-to-year planning, and I think specifically we did work this time on strategic planning and just understanding the value of it and how powerful it is for giving you a lens for making decisions when there are so many decisions to make. That has been tremendous for me. I think now the thoughts about sort of how do we get ourselves ready to do something like that and gear up for getting enough things in place so that once we do it, we can actually follow through on it, as opposed to just jumping in and then, not necessarily having it work. So I think that's a question, but hearing about it, hearing about the importance of it, seeing it practically, seeing some plans, seeing how you make the plans and what happens after and before, and that has been amazing for me and inspiring, and I really can't wait to get it done.
Amazing. Thank you so much.